My expertise is in teaching people how to ask good questions. But today, that is not what I will be talking about. See, today, I want to talk to you about how to ask the most difficult question. And that difficult question has to do with suicide. So maybe you didn't see that coming. Suicide. That's not something we usually talk about in public. If it is talked about at all, it's whispered. We want to avoid it. There's a stigma there. So as we head into this Christmas and this holiday season, I'd like to give you some tips on suicide prevention that maybe you can use as you go and visit family and friends this Christmas yourself. Before we get to that big question, that most difficult question, we should learn a few things about suicide. We need to understand the prevalence of suicide. From 1999 to 2016, there was a 28% increase in suicide in the United States. Last year, 47,100 Americans died by suicide. So if we break that down, on average, that's 129 suicides per day. In 24 hours, 129 suicides occurred. Even more tragic, 81% of the time, the people that died by suicide, they told someone what they're going to do and when. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, how did that happen? They told someone how and when, and it still happened. I would tell you there's a stigma to suicide. So what happens now is we need to learn how to recognize and how to realize the stigma associated with suicide. One way, a simple way perhaps, is how we address it, just in conversation. See, what we'll say is people commit suicide, but we also say people commit rape, they commit murder, they commit burglary, and those are criminal acts. Suicide is not a criminal act. It's not a criminal concern. I would tell you that suicide is a public health concern. So according to the CDC, 90% of all people, of all Americans who die by suicide, had a diagnosable and treatable mental illness. So you have to understand, the people that tried to kill themselves, it's not because they wanted to die. They wanted the pain to stop. So we know the prevalence of suicide. We briefly spoke about the stigma and the fact that we need to change the stigma, that we need to be able to talk about mental health and people with suicidal thoughts. We should be able to talk about that as easy as we suggest to someone that they should go to the doctor for that cold or for that broken foot. So after we realize the stigma, we need to be prepared to react when needed. So we're building up to that big, difficult question. But there's some things that we need to know before we get there. And those are warning signs. Now, this list is not all inclusive. There may be mitigating factors for why people behave the way they do. But some of the things you can look for are pretty common. Perhaps they're withdrawn from family and friends. Maybe they're giving away prized possessions. Perhaps there's an increase in drugs and alcohol. If you hear them talking about suicide, saying they want to kill themselves, talking about hopelessness, or having no reason to live, do not laugh it off or think it's a joke. Take them seriously. So now we get to a point where perhaps, you do recognize some of those warning signs, and you do want to help that family member or that friend. So what do? Well, I'll tell you that it's simple, yet takes courage. It takes courage to ask it, and it takes courage for this person to answer it. And what you need to do is just simply ask them, are you thinking of killing yourself? When you do this, be ready to listen. Don't interrupt, don't interject, don't judge, and don't offer advice unless asked. If they say yes, stay with them, care for them, escort them to the emergency room, to a lifeline or hotline, or to certified therapists, people that can help. If you want more ideas or suggestions on how to help a friend or loved one, I would highly encourage you to go to the website seizetheawkward.org. Also visit the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention at afsp.org. Remember, you do not have to be an expert to help. You just need to be a friend.